right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Arizona's #1 real estate TV show, The LOCKBOX, presented by the Grandon Group, Arizona's #1 brother and sister team. Hey, so today we've got a great show today, except I am missing my co-host, Angela, from VIP Mortgage. She's not here today. She had some training, so she can help all of you guys get pre-qualified to purchase a home. So if you need her, there's her number, and the Hendricks team, they are great at getting you guys pre-qualified, making sure the deal's done before it even gets started. And they've been a huge help to the Grandon Group, and they're just a great team. So if you have questions regarding refinancing, buying a home, whatever, give them a buzz. They're great. So we move into another final week. School starts this week. We're in the first week of August. So as I tell Robin, our producer, we are in the second month of Jason. July, August, September, October, November. We're in August. So, and it's funny, people be like, wait a second, Jason, what does that mean? July, August, September, October, November. Oh, I get it. So anyways, the real estate market is hot. And with everything going on in the country, Arizona is one of the states where we're going to have a lot of people that are going to continue to move here. So I kind of predict the numbers are going to keep going up. It's going to be pretty good. So today I've got a great guest. So last week we were doing some stuff on our other projects, and I get a call from this gal, and she's awesome. So it's like we've been hanging out all the time together now, and I'm like, wow, I got like a new friend. And so she's awesome. She's also an Arizona native. She's also a realtor with eXp Realty. She should be with the Grandon Group, but you know, we all work together. And she's awesome, and she works up in Flagstaff. But Arizona native, Christina on Cothrun, right? Is that how we say the last name, Cothrun?
That's right, Cothrun. Yes.
That's awesome. You're also known as the Patriot Realtor.
Yes, the Red Hat Realtor.
The Red Hat Realtor.
Or today, Red, White, and Blue Hat Realtor.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so you haven't been in real estate that long.
So I've had my license for about 4 years, non-practicing. Mainly had it for investment properties, but I call real estate my COVID calling. So while we were told to mask up and stay at home during COVID, I started going a little bit stir crazy. And so I thought, you know, what can I do to get out of my home? So I started selling homes.
So this is great. So you and I have had this conversation before. Now, personally, if you're in real estate, full-time agent for your full-time life, and you go with that route as well. But this is for all of you that call, and we do get emails on it. How do I get started in real estate? How do I do this or that? You just jumped into it, and you're very successful at it.
Just jumped in head first. You know, I think a lot of who I am and who I strive to be, Jason, is more so a connector than a climber. And having that, I mean, being an Arizona native, third generation, you know, I volunteer a lot in our community. And so I think, you know, coming out of the gate full swinging, full force, with admittedly real estate as a side hustle, because I thought to myself, also having a business concurrent to real estate, separate from real estate, that, hey, you know, I'm just going to do this on the side. But I do agree with you. I think in order to have full force for your clients and to give them the highest level of service to best represent our industry, I think full force really does mean full time.
Well, and then a lot of it goes into attitude on how you were raised. So you are for sure a go-getter, and that's the first thing I saw when we first met up. You're a go-getter because you have another business that's really successful.
I do.
And you really don't take no for an answer.
No.
So when you go after a project, whether it's a nonprofit or a business, you're all in.
I'm all in. And, you know, I think when you say, and it's true, I don't take no for an answer, it's, you know, I'm one of those people, I've always been this way since childhood, where when people ask why, I'm the type that asks why not. And I think a lot of, you know, what success is, it's not having all of the answers necessarily. You know, in my case, coming into real estate, I didn't have all the answers, but I knew that I didn't know everything, and I knew where to go to find out those answers for everything. And there's nothing that replaces experience. You can also try and, read or speak to people on what you ought to do, but unless you actually make the choice to do it, it'll never get done. So I've been in real estate for exactly 1 year and 1 month, and have sold to date about $22 million.
That's awesome.
Worth of real estate, and what started off as a side hustle, but it has become, as you mentioned, a full force one.
Now, so we get people, and you'll probably get a couple emails on this. People will call and they're like, I want to get into real estate. What do I need to do? And honestly, this is not a job for everybody. Let's face it. Yes, I can probably fix broken water pipes at the house or the ranch where I grew up on, but you know what? I'm not a plumber. There's people that do that. What do you tell people? They're like, hey, you're ordering a hamburger, and they're like, I think about getting into real estate just so I can make some extra cash, which irritates me to no end. But what do you think about that?
Well, I think most realtors should stick to flipping hamburgers, admittedly. And so another one of the reasons that I became a realtor is because, I hate to say if this is you out there, but there are so many bad realtors out there that don't work full time. And even if they don't work full time, they don't put full force behind it. They don't answer their phone. They're not diligent about deadlines. And they're not people. I mean, you and I connected, not but a week ago, and I've seen you 3 times in 1 week, this being the third, and I feel like you're more than a friend, more like a brother to me, and the short time we've gotten to know one another. And I think it's just how you connect with people and how you care for them. And, it takes putting... real estate, let me just put it this way. Real estate is a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour job. Well,
so now as we move into Arizona,
yes,
there's a lot of people that Arizona's great. It's a big mesh of everything. And so I would venture to say that a lot of Arizona people have our attitude.
I think so too. Well, as I look at the lockbox right behind you, you can't have Grandon without Grand.
Hey, there you go.
Thanks. We're in the Grand Canyon state, and we're both natives. We've seen how this state has grown.
Well, so growing up here,
Sure.
we've seen a ton because you went to local high school, Xavier.
I did.
Right?
I did.
So you've seen. Well, we're right here at Fashion Square area. So do you remember when it was an open air mall?
I do.
So we've seen a ton of changes.
And just the expansion, right? And as I'm looking out, the waterfront, high towers that are there, the Optima right out the window behind me. We've seen it change, not only from the standpoint of real estate. And ironically, Arizona, before Arizona was a state, it started off as a territory. Right. And part of the dilemma when Arizona and New Mexico were both, neighboring territories, were one unit essentially, the concern was over climate and population. And flash forward, 100 plus years later, people are flocking here, nearly 300 every day, something like
absolutely.
that.
Yep, 300 a day.
From so many different places because they love our climate. And it's made our population burgeon, and from 2010 to 2019, Phoenix was the fastest growing city, right, in the entire nation.
Yep.
So
and
a lot of change comes with that.
No, it does. And it's funny, when you ask somebody, hey, I'll be there, everything is 20 minutes. I'll be there in 20 minutes, right, with the freeways and stuff?
Yeah.
So what's it like growing up in Arizona? We got a lot of people moving here. They call and they're like, hey, so we're moving out of one of these crazy states. We're moving to Arizona. Why do you think people love Arizona so much?
Well, again, I think it's, just the climate and geography. So I live here in Scottsdale. I know you do as well. I think there's a reason that Scottsdale is the most livable city, as they call it.
Except in July through September.
Except in July through September, of course. But they do say it's a dry heat. I don't know if you're sweating it out in 100 and something degree temps. But, I think it's also the localized climate. So I also have a place up in Flagstaff. And when it is so excruciatingly hot here, 2 hours door to door gets you up to the high country,
Yep.
and the ponderosas from 1,500 feet elevation up to 7,500 feet elevation allows for you to have a change of scenery, but also a change of climate. I mean, during the monsoon months, you can, it might be 100 and some odd degrees down here, and it might be 50 or 60 degrees with rain or hail at
Absolutely.
times. So I think, people really love our state because it's livable, although the heat sometimes makes it unbearable. But, during the winter months, living here in the valley, when we see, other people and other necks of the woods plowing snow, we're in shorts and T-shirts,
Yep.
on the golf course.
Absolutely.
So-
And right up the road in Tempe, you can go paddle boarding and boating. And then an hour and a half, like you said, 2 hours during the winter, we can go skiing. And then get back down here in shorts and T-shirt. It's awesome. So, okay, so you're obviously an Arizona native, third generation, right? And so people always come up to you and they're like, where are you from? I'm from Arizona. Don't they? Don't you love that?
I love it. I love it.
So you brought some stuff today, which I thought was interesting.
did.
So I actually begged because I think this is just a great story. So tell us about the suitcase that you brought in because I think this is an incredible story.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me here today. And when I, started thinking about being here with you, Jason, I thought about the name of your show, your program, The Lockbox. And I told you on the phone, I said, well, should I bring my box, which is the box that you're looking at, which is the suitcase that my grandmother on my father's side immigrated to America with.
And how many years ago was this?
So my grandfather and my grandmother were married at 16 years old, prearranged marriage. You asked where I'm from Phoenix, but I'm of Chinese heritage. So my grandfather and grandmother married. They had my Aunt Linda. They adopted my Uncle Tim because in Chinese tradition, you want a boy, of course, to carry on the family name. And then my grandmother stayed back in China. My grandfather came here, again, 16 years old, and lived, worked, and slept in the back of a grocery store on cardboard, which is now, it was called Shady Market, and it existed on what is now the intersection of 18th Street and Van Buren. I mentioned that he lived, worked, and slept on cardboard box. Well, what did he do with his earnings? He just stockpiled them and sent for my grandmother 22 years later. So what's so incredible, I think, about, being an American, we all come from somewhere. I mean, we really are a melting pot. And, we all ought to take great pride in, our stars and stripes.
Absolutely.
And, it's that sacrifice that my grandparents each made. And when you compare their immigration photos, which I didn't bring with me, but when you compare them, my grandfather literally is a child. And when you look at my grandmother's photo, having immigrated here in 1941, my grandfather in 1919, roughly, she's a woman. And I think that there's something really sacred in sacrifice.
No, without a doubt. I mean, that's amazing. So he slept in the back of the store at 18th and Van Buren, which... If you need to buy a house over there, call Christine. She can probably help you.
And I'll refer it to Jason.
So it used to be a very popular area. It used to be kind of the strip. So he slept in the back of the store and built this. And obviously you're raised because you're incredible. You went to Xavier.
I went to Xavier.
Which is a private school out here, all girls private school.
Yes, I'm a proud Xavier Gator. And I brought that because I think, going back to the suitcase, we all have our own life journeys. And when I look at that suitcase, I think to myself, okay, if I only had one suitcase, what would I fill it with? If I only had one life, what would I fill it with? And that's just, I think, an attitude that we all ought to adopt, because I think a lot of what success is stems from mentality, choices, less abilities, because you can always work on your abilities. And so I went to Xavier, and, not to perpetuate a stereotype, but to, address that I am Chinese American, or American Chinese, however you might say it. But I'm also one of those that I really had to work at the grades. So Xavier is, if you, have lived here for any great length of time or know anything about Xavier and Brophy, they're really strenuous. I mean, they're called college preparatory schools for a reason. And I really learned not only from my upbringing and just an appreciation of my heritage, but I learned at Xavier that with grit, with guts, and with the, ability to never give up, tenacity, that you can have and you can achieve anything. And so I was one of those kids. I wasn't, great at my studies, but I put in the time and investment that when I did graduate, I graduated with a 4.3 GPA, but really had to work at it. It didn't come naturally, inherently. And with 46 college credits that I was able to, so I'm born and raised, but I never left. So I went to Arizona State University, studied journalism, graduated, realized I didn't want to move to a podunk town, that I truly love Arizona so much, Jason, that I realized that I never wanted to leave. And so sometimes we think, being a native, and we didn't take a lot of trips, we didn't travel a lot growing up. If we did take a trip, it'd be typically to Long Beach, California, where my father's sister, my Aunt Linda, lives, and that was about it. So I thought, journalism is a way for me to pack up my suitcase and go to someplace far and away often. And then when I graduated, I thought, I really love my home state. And I don't know that I want to leave. And I really love my friends. I mean, my Xavier friends are incredible people. And it's funny, if you ever, again, if you know the Xavier Gator culture, I will meet people who I didn't even go to school with, older or younger, and there's an instant connection because you've had that shared common experience, right? So, but some of my best friends to this day, and lifelong friends at that.
Now, don't you kind of think Arizona's a big melting pot?
I do.
I mean, there's people with some really good experiences here and stuff. So, being raised, do you think you'd be able to do the same thing as your ancestors did to come here? Like live in the back of a store and do that? I mean, because look how we live now. I mean,
sure. I think we live in a world of abundance, so it's hard to even be able to think about what would I have done. And I think, because of, and you're an Arizona native too.
Yep.
So, I think because of the choices, getting back to choices again, and how they make us, break us, frame us, mold us, I don't know if I could have done that.
No, I'm with you.
But that I didn't have to. I appreciate that sacrifice, that, I find ways continually, as I know you do also, to serve, because I do have that appreciation, but not necessarily to that scale.
Well, and that's one of the great things I think about Arizona is that we have a lot of people like you, like-minded, that want to get out there and serve. So everything you do, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it to help your family, help others.
Service is really important to me. I remember praying with my pastor one day, and I prayed for guidance. I prayed for God to give me vision and purpose beyond the other business, which is money lending, that my husband and I run.
Can I borrow $10?
With interest.
And you had a very successful business on that money lending.
Yes, very successful. Just story about that. So my husband started our business literally with one telephone, one computer, and at the time he since passed on our yellow Labrador. And I think, when you talk about, would I have done what my grandparents did to get here? I would hope that I would have done that because it's afforded us the ability to be in the country, the only country in the world where you can be and do anything that you want with hard work. And so, but that being said, my husband started the business. We built it on into 4 locations, did exceptionally well, but reached a point where I felt incredibly unfulfilled. So you can have wealth also, but not have wisdom. And so I prayed with my pastor one day, and Ephesians 2:10 came up, which says, we are created in his workmanship in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand that we may do. And so when I heard that, I just ruminated on it. And so then I would go on to, a couple years ago, I would go on to get appointed as you talk about service, as a volunteer fundraiser for President Trump in his reelection, and truly sacrifice the business component of our life and our livelihood. Sometimes as a leader and, coming from Xavier as part of my roots, hey, if you want a job done, get it yourself.
Absolutely.
But really where our business burgeoned was when I learned as a leader to let go, and when I really started fulfilling that void that, God put me on a different path. And so I served this country, ended up becoming the top volunteer fundraiser for the campaign. And then post-election, I am on the Arizona Life Coalition, which is the biggest life-giving resources organization in Arizona. But also beyond that, in my real estate, I made the intent, and this is how I started my business, I made the intent to give a minimum of 10% of all my earnings to all things faith, family, or freedom in Orient. So
that's fantastic. That is great.
It's been a fun journey.
And so so there's a lot of people, we get calls, I know both of us do. I want to do this, but I just don't know how to do it. And I think sometimes your best bet is just to sit back, pray about it, and I honestly believe answers come to you. Would you agree with that?
I believe that, and I think, one thing that our country needs more of, that we as individuals need more of, is a belief in a higher power. For me, and I know for you too, that's God. And I think, we live in such a world where, you go do you, but I think when we have a faith in something greater, sometimes what we're trying to escape, we fight through, we work through, because we know that there's a bigger plan.
Absolutely. And what's great about specifically Arizona is that you can have these beliefs and still work with people that don't believe it, and everybody gets along fine.
Yes.
And we see it. We see it with a ton of people. I mean, I know you see it. So I see you have a book here, All the Places You'll Go. Did you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I brought this because, and let's just say it's an extension of the suitcase, because I think, we, really need to, focus on, and this is part of what I love about real estate, focus on what happens in the home. As parents, positive messaging. I think as a country warrior, my big thing in service within the community is creating a community, because I think we all want to be part of something, but it's not easy. And so this was one of my favorite books when I was a child, and I thought, I would share some of who I am based on, The Places You'll Go, Dr. Seuss. And so, to all of you out there watching Jason's wonderful show, I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. And so that's, to say, hey, in the highs and lows, I sell real estate, in the peaks of Flagstaff, but also the valley of Scottsdale, that, in life, you will have the ups and downs. But how do you handle that? And Arizona is called the Grand Canyon State for a reason, and it's brought grand people like us together. The other thing that I just wanted to share on life being a great balancing act is this. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with many strange birds, like Jason.
Like Robin, who's sitting there with the...
Like Robin, as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left.
That's very good.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that makes Arizona great.
We'll
That absolutely. And we have a lot of that out here. And then you had a couple pieces of memorabilia.
Did, yes. So actually in traveling here, Jason, with my box to your show, the LOCKBOX, I just found, so in Chinese tradition, red envelopes are a sign of good luck. And so interestingly enough, I found these in the suitcase, and then this was kind of fun. And then going back to the suitcase, so I actually dug it out of the dumpster. So my father and my Uncle Joe were cleaning up my grandmother's house after many, many years and just sorting through things that they hadn't sorted through. So I get there to help out some, and I see this suitcase in the dumpster. And I might be a little bit of a hoarder with things of sentiment, but I dug it out, and I'm happy I did. And in there I found just different mementos. And so, I guess, from all the places you'll go to the places that my grandmother and your grandparents and your ancestors and maybe you have traveled from, never forget the places you've come from and the places that you can go.
You are just awesome. I really think people are going to love you. And feel free to reach out to Christine anytime. I mean, she's great to talk to. She's got a ton of information, especially if you're thinking about getting involved in different things. If you're considering a career in real estate, it's always good to talk to someone like myself, Christine, because it's not an easy job. But also if you want to get involved in the schools, the local politics, or just anything, you just need a good support team behind you, somebody to push you. And I think if you just kick back and take a little faith, those answers come to you. Don't you think?
Amen.
Right? Perfect. So how can people reach out to you? Oh, you got a great show, by the way. You have a little internet TV show called American Made, which obviously is the name up there. And you did a great job with it. So we're hoping we get to see more of those shows.
You might be able to convince me. Or I'll just come hang out with you on your show.
Well, you can do that too. That'd be a blast. So, hey, it's been great having you today. This was awesome. This is fantastic. So anyways, Angela was not here today, which we wish she was because she's always a blast. If you guys need a pre-qual, make sure you reach out to Angela at the VIP team. They'll get you 7 days a week, 24/7. They'll have you a pre-qual, or they can refinance whatever you need. And then if you're up in Flagstaff, we are officially up in Flagstaff with our friend Christine, who just, congratulations on your 2 properties you just sold.
Thank
Those
you.
2 land pieces. So, and that town is growing too.
It's growing.
It's great. Mm-hmm. The only downfall about that Flagstaff is driving that I-17. But other than that, once you're there, it's great.
It's a death trap.
It is. So just take your time on it.
But once you get there.
And then for the rest of you, any questions on real estate wise, reach out to Arizona's #1 brother and sister real estate team, the Grandon Group. And we will see you guys next week on the LOCKBOX. We'll see you soon.